97.3 ESPN presents The Sports Bash with Mike Gill. It's time for Football at 4 with Adam Caplan.
I have real confidence that our football operations can once again create a dominant football team.
Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, it's Football at 4.
Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Drops every week, Monday and Thursday mornings. And, of course, Adam Caplan joins us every Friday here on 97.3 ESPN to get more into what's going on with the Eagles. Because, you know, Broads, the Eagles, they never really seem to stop anything. The cycle doesn't stop, the news doesn't stop, and that's pretty good for the guys at the Inside the Birds to keep busy.
Absolutely. They're the best in the business.
Well, I mean, I listen to them every time, but, you know.
So do I.
What do I know?
Yeah.
Adam, how you doing today?
Guys, good to talk to you here on this Friday. And we'll see what happens with Carson Wentz. I know we'll get into that. We had the Trevor Lawrence workout today for NFL teams. Spoke to a couple teams that were there. Went as well as you would think it would be. Not that the Eagles could draft him. But, look, it's lots going on. The Eagles actually finalized a coaching staff for the last 24 hours. There have been a couple surprises. One that was very bizarre today, which we can get into. And we got notes of the offense, the defensive schemes, which are going to change a little bit. So lots going on.
So let's start at the top with the thing that nobody can stop talking about, Carson Wentz. It's getting to the point where you have a group of people who they're just so impatient. They're like, we were told this is coming in days, right?
Yeah.
And another group of people who are like, we're trying to wait for the best deal, guys. So what is the latest on the 2016 second overall pick?
Look, let me put it to you this way. As we speak, it could go down. It could go down in 10 minutes. It could go down in 10 days. The Eagles are going to move Carson Wentz, barring a extremely unforeseen surprise. Why do I put it into that term and phrase? He's wanted to be moved for really not weeks, months, but it's not like he could be traded or even talk about being traded for a season. He's just not happy with the organization. It wasn't just Doug Peterson. That was wrong when people said, oh, that'll placate him. He had issues with not just the head coach, the former head coach, with he just didn't feel what I would call, as once were said, organizational support, and he wants out. The Eagles are trying to do right by him, despite the cap hit, which will be over $33 million once they move him. But the fact of the matter is, he's going to be moved, again, barring a surprise. I still believe it's going to be the Colts. I've said that from day one. I still think that's the number one team, and not just me saying that. Multiple NFL teams I've spoken with who are looking for a quarterback feel that way, but I'm not the one who's involved in it, so we'll see what happens. But that's kind of where it is. And, by the way, the one thing on the timeline, guys, the first deadline, if you want to call it that, it's a loose deadline. There's really no real deadline to do this. But to save some money here, not only the cap but in cash, they owe him $10 million on a fully guaranteed roster bonus on March 19th. So that's really the first date that they're going to want to have him move, which is the third day of free agency.
What's the plan after he gets moved?
Yeah, Hunter, that's what I think that's really what we should be looking at and fans should be talking about. Is it going to be Jalen Hurts? Well, obviously he would be the starter as of right now once Wentz is moved. But they're going to have, once they trade Wentz, they'll have to add two quarterbacks. You can't have a training camp with two quarterbacks. You can't do that. So you'll have three quarterbacks. So it'll be Hurts. They may draft a quarterback, and I expect them to add a veteran. We'll see who that could be. But when you look at it right now, Jalen Hurts, the second-round pick last year, which certainly was surprising. Boy, to this day, I still can't believe it. But they took him. Who knew, folks? Who knew that there would become a day that he actually could be the Eagles' starting quarterback? But as I understand it, that would be the early plan. Things could always change. But that would be the early plan, to go forward with Hurts and add other quarterbacks later.
Just to add some clarity to what you said about the veteran quarterback, are we talking about maybe like a name like a Ryan Fitzpatrick, or are we talking about maybe like a lesser guy would the Eagles be interested in?
Well, no. What they would look for is someone who's at least started games before. Last year, I'd reported that the Eagles were going to sign Joe Flacco. That was the guy that they targeted. But Joe wound up needing neck surgery, so they backed off. And, obviously they went into a different direction. As a matter of fact, they went a completely different direction. They drafted Jalen Hurts, which is certainly surprising. Didn't see that coming. But look, by the way, Flacco is an unrestricted free agent. There's some veterans out there. Let's put it this way. I don't know that they would bring in someone that would come in and challenge him to start, but I was talking to my friend Kevin Nagani from ESPN a couple of days ago. He said that Chris Mortensen went on the 6 o'clock Sports Center and mentioned that the Eagles might have some interest in Marcus Mariota. Now, Mariota is available, as I understand it. He's got a salary cap number less than $10 million. So that one would make sense. I understand Chip Kelly wanted him 15, but that was Chip Kelly wanting him. That had nothing to do with Howie Roseman at that time. But they would look, I believe, as I understand, to bring in a veteran. It doesn't have to be someone who's going to make a lot of money. It's just that they like to have someone experienced to either play alongside or back up Jalen Hurts, who could potentially challenge him, but it's not going to be like a super high-priced quarterback at $20 million. It's not happening.
Real quick with the timeline, you mentioned the soft date, if you will, with the $10 million. Yeah. What would be after that? Is there another soft date after the start of the new year?
Yeah, Hunter, as I look at his contract, we're talking about Carson Wentz here. There's a lot of guaranteed money left. There's an advance guarantee if he's on the contract on the third day of the league year. I'll open that up in just a second here. Here it is. So in what I have, his base salary of $22 million becomes fully guaranteed on the third day of free agency this year. It's called an advance guarantee. So that would also be the date. But in terms of this year's money, it's $10 million now, and then $22 million gets guaranteed next year. So they're going to want to move him by the third day of the league year. Does it absolutely have to be that? And then no, just as long as they think they're still going to be able to trade him by the draft, because if they decide later on they want to draft somebody fairly early on, I don't think it would be in the first round, but if they want to draft someone in the second or third round, you want to have Wentz off the roster by then.
Adam Caplan joining us, Football on 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. You can follow Adam on Twitter at Caplan NFL for your Eagles and NFL insights. Inside the Birds podcast drops Monday and Thursday mornings, all off season long. Caplan and Mosher joins us at Football on 4 here on 97.3 ESPN. Adam, let's get into the coaching staff. They have made the official announcement of the coaching staff, but one of the things that stands out to a lot of people is no senior offensive or defensive assistant coaches. Any specific reasoning behind that?
Yeah, I'm surprised. We had reported that, at least I know this for a fact, they were looking into one on offense and defense for whatever reason. Now it's not like there's no rule that says you can't add a coach later. That you can do that. There's no rule that says you can't do that. There's no salary cap on coaches, by the way. But for now, they're not going to add one. I know for a fact that head coach Nick Sirianni considered one or two, or actually three former head coaches for the National Football League, but to this date, he has not added them. So right now, they're not on the roster. So that's where that is. Now, here's the other. This is interesting. Now, Mosher and I hinted on our show Inside the Birds about 3 weeks ago that we were hearing there'd be very few, if no, assistant position coaches. Well, they only had one, and the one left the team today. His name is Jay Valai. According to ESPN.com, one of the college writers, I think it's Adam Rittenberg, reported that he's leaving the Eagles. Okay, he's leaving the Eagles and go to Alabama. And it's like, how do you turn down an Alabama job? But if you're following me on Twitter, at Caplan NFL, I noted that he's had 6 jobs, different jobs now in 3 years. He was with the University of Texas. Then last season, over a season, actually at Texas. For that, Rutgers. Then he accepted a job at the University of Houston. Left there, was only there a month. He actually never coached for them. He was just there in January. Just joined the Eagles less than 3 weeks ago, and now he's going to Alabama. So right now, they don't have one assistant position coach for the first time in I don't know how long, certainly at least 6 years. And the reason we were told that that Sirianni didn't want them is because he wants to streamline the staff. He wants the guys who are actually coaching the position just to be those coaches. Not that Shane Steichen won't be somewhat coaching Jalen Hurts and whoever the other quarterbacks are going to be, but it's going to be specific to that position and that guy's responsibility. They're not going to add much. The only guy who's staying as an assistant position coach would be with Jeff Stoutland is the guy that was there last season, but they didn't add any new ones that are there now. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And it's just to see, Roy Istvan, who was there the last couple seasons, that Jeff, I'm told, brought him in, but they did not add any new position coaches in terms of assistants. And
speaking of Nick Sirianni, has there been any offensive scheme philosophy changes?
Yeah, so Hunter, and now it's a little early here, so let's not go crazy with this stuff. But when I talked to some coaches who work with Sirianni and know the way he thinks, and he said you could expect that the route combinations will not be as deep. It's not like they're not going to have 9 routes. They're going to have 9 routes, which are deeper passes. But what you're going to have is you're not going to have so many vertical routes. They're going to have a lot of shallow crosses, in breaking routes, not as many deeper passes. So that's good news because Moshe and I think it's true because we talked to other teams and criticized Eagles coaches last season in terms of scheme. The philosophy of just so many deeper routes. Yeah, we know they had better speed last season. There's no doubt about it. But you're not going to see as many deeper routes. And that on offense is something that needed to change. And I'm glad they're doing that because they became very predictable last season.
You mentioned about the types of routes. It sounds like from what you're describing, this sounds like almost like a blend of what the Colts and Chargers did. So it almost seems like Sirianni's bringing some of what he had with Reich in Indianapolis, some of what Steichen had with the Chargers. Is that a right interpretation?
Yeah, Josh, I would say that it was definitely going to be more of a West Coast scheme in terms of philosophy and look. This is what a couple coaches told me that worked with Nick before, and that's the way they think that he thinks about this offense. It's not going to be as stretch the field base. Again, it's not like they're not going to throw the ball deep. Of course they will. Every team does that. And then the other thing is with protection, you hope with Lane Johnson, we reported a couple weeks ago that we'd heard his ankle surgery is doing his rehab is going really well. And I'm told that he's told people that he feels like it's going to be like good as new. So that's good. And they've really got to rebuild this offensive line in terms of getting younger. I know that Brandon Brooks, they owe him $10 million fully guaranteed this season. So you would expect him to be back. We don't know about Jason Kelsey. He's on the final year of his deal. It's that option year. So the Eagles have to make a decision on his contract. And I know the Eagles are going to look at after they get the Wentz deal done, assume it gets done soon, they'll make a decision on Kelsey. And look, some older players, they've got to make decisions on Rodney McLeod on defense, who's on the final year of his deal. Some older players they kind of look at and see what they want to do. And this is kind of the deal here, guys. This is going to be a semi-rebuild. The Eagles will never say that publicly, but I know people who are familiar with Eagles thinking know that it's going to be somewhat of a rebuild.
Since you brought up the offensive line, I think one of the most intriguing fights for a position, if you will, this offseason is going to be Mailata and Dillard. Do you think that it's Mailata's job to lose? Dillard, where does that sit, do you think?
Okay, so, Hunter, Jordan Mailata, if the season started today, and this is just my thinking, will be the left tackle. Andre Dillard's under contract. We know he's coming off of a significant injury. As far as I'm concerned, he'll be there. I don't know that they're not making him available to be traded right now, and I don't know that they would trade him. But assuming he's on the roster, I'm fully expecting Mailata to beat him out. He did such a good job, and he's so far advanced. He stayed healthy, and by the way, he finished the season healthy. I'm told his back is fine. There are no issues. So he's back. He'll compete for that left tackle job against Dillard. I expect him to win it. Isaac Seumalo is a really solid starting left guard. They don't know who their center is going to be yet. Brandon Brooks, this is the last year of that fully guaranteed money. And Lane Johnson, he's got a contract that's untradeable. He'll be back. Not that they want to trade him. He's back at right tackle, but he's 30. So here's the problem. You got 3 guys if Kelsey's back who are over 30 years old. That's not a good thing. You got to get younger, and I expect the Eagles to address the youth on the offensive line in the draft.
Adam, let's jump over to the defensive side. What are some of the changes and expectations that you expect to see from the Eagles' defense now with Mr. Gannon here?
Yeah, so, Josh, we're going to talk about that Inside the Birds the next 2 weeks. We're doing positional previews, by the way. We did quarterback. We just did running back. Our next show, which will drop on 6 a.m. if you're watching us on the stream or watching the replay, we're going to drop the next show because we're on twice a week now, Mondays and Thursdays at 6 a.m. Eastern. The next show will be the wide receiver positional preview. We'll get to the defense probably in the following week, but I'll give you a little bit of a hint. It'd still be a 43, but Some of these coaches I spoke with think they're still going to run that wide nine, probably not going to be very involved. Under Gannon, it's going to be much more of the Minnesota base, because that's his background, the way he's some in Indianapolis. His major background in his career is with Mike Zimmer in terms of thinking. And that's more of a 43 non-wide nine. It's more, I don't want to call it bend and don't break front, but it's more read and react. It's more of a secondary based defense. And it's a lot of it's a lot of disguise. You're going to see post-snap disguise. That's what these coaches who work with Gannon believe in the past. I need to get more clarification on it, but that's the early word I got. So you know what? That's the thing that we've complained about with Jim Schwartz, guys. Lack of post-snap disguise. He made it very easy for the opponent to figure out. So there are going to be some significant philosophy changes on both sides of the football this season.
Do you anticipate that resulting in maybe more turnovers from the secondary? Because a lot of that last year was not even last year.
I know. You won't see zero interceptions by the secondary. You're going to see some forced by the safeties and the corners. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, it's a great question, a great point. And you're going to see that. Look, it's the infancy of Mosher not getting information. I haven't really talked to the Eagles much about it yet, but I do know from talking to coaches at work with these guys over the years and whatever stops they were, this is what's likely to happen in terms of philosophy. But we need to learn more. And remember, they'll address a little bit in the free agency. They're not going to be heavily involved in free agency for obvious reasons because of the cap issue. I'd like to see them get younger in the back end, particularly corner, opposite Darius Slay, which they know they have to do. And they'll do that. Look, they have a lot of needs. This is probably the most needs they've needed on both sides of the football in recent years, and it's going to be good to see. I hope they look. The belief internally is with compensatory picks, they could have up to 10 draft picks if they don't trade any away, and they're going to need any picks they can get. And who knows, maybe they'll trade away a couple of veterans for some picks.
Now, you mentioned the draft, Adam, with these philosophy changes, with the new coaches, with the new expectations for this offseason. How does that impact the draft as well? Because you and Mosher have talked about in the past about how this is the team's philosophy about, let's say, linebackers or about cornerbacks. So now a new coach, new scheme, how does that affect what they do with the draft?
You know, I got to talk about linebacker right now. That's actually, I'm looking into that because I'm talking to guys who have worked with the Vikings before. And see, it's funny. Even going back to the late Jim Johnson, he liked his linebacker smaller and faster. And they still have held true, even through Jim Schwartz. I do wonder, Josh, will that change under Jonathan Gannon, who's a defensive back guy? I do really wonder if because Alex Singleton was tremendous. He had a breakout season, but they don't really have TJ Edwards is just a downhill first and second down linebacker. So I do really wonder, and Nate Gary, by the way, his contract's up. I do wonder if they're going to bring in bigger linebackers. Like, Anthony Barr is a bigger linebacker. He could rush. He's not coming here. He's under contract with the Vikings, but I'm giving you an example. He's a longer, bigger linebacker. I do really wonder, will their philosophy change on size at the linebacker position?
Since we are discussing defense, I know this isn't Eagles, but I want to hear your thoughts on the J.J. Watt situation. When that dropped today, I was stunned.
Yeah, I mean, he turns 32 on March 22nd. He's older. He didn't want to be there because he doesn't want to continue to be on a losing team. And it's just not a secret. He was not happy with the culture last season. So I expect him, once it's official, they announced it, but they haven't turned the transaction. And once it's official, I expect him to go to a team that can win. I think he's not going anywhere in a rebuild. And I expect him to go to a team where he could go in and win right away and have a chance to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, the one organization that's more of a dumpster fire, Broads, than the Eagles. Even though Eagle fans will tell you the Eagles are a mess, the Texans are much worse, right, Adam?
Oh, yeah. God, yeah. Oh, yeah. They're way bad.
He's Adam Caplan, Football at Four, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Follow Adam on Twitter at Caplan NFL. Inside the Birds, next episode drops Monday morning, 6 a.m. Mosher and Caplan. Download it, subscribe, rate and review, etc. All. And as all guests, he appeared on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Adam, great stuff today.
All right, guys. Thank you.